Welcome to the Experts in Sport podcast, brought to you by the School of Sport, Exercise and Health Sciences at Loughborough University.
Hello and welcome to the podcast. I'm Hannah Fox Dugdale, and today we'll be talking about a major new development in women's sport, one that's set to change the game, quite literally. I'm joined by Dr Verity Postlethwaite, who's here to tell us all about the Loughborough University's brand new Women in Sport Research and Innovation Hub. Verity, welcome.
Thanks, Hannah. It's great to be here.
So this year has been coined the 2025 Summer of Women in Sport. So it seems like a fantastic timing where we've got Women's Rugby World Cup that's being hosted here in England. We've got the Women's Euros for football. We've got that World Athletics Championships in Tokyo, and even the women's tournament being held back at the Queen's Tennis Club for the first time in 50 years. So with that timing in mind, can you kind of tell us what the Research and Innovation Hub is?
Yes, of course. And I think you've demonstrated the vibrancy of what 2025 is for women and girls sport across the UK and more globally. So back in March, Loughborough University launched its multi-million-pound initiative that is the Women in Sport Research and Innovation Hub. It's designed to accelerate progress in women's sport by bringing together researchers, innovators, some of our industry partners, national governing bodies of sport, elite athletes, right the way through to those in and around our local, regional, national and international communities. The aim of the hub is to really tackle and find solutions to some of the unique challenges that women and girls face in and across the sporting, exercise, health landscapes. And as I said, it's from that grassroots right the way up to the elite levels. And we really are driving for real, evidence-based, sustainable change. And we're doing this in a very academic way initially through 5 interdisciplinary labs with representation of voices and projects from across all of our 9 academic schools.
Thanks for that. That's a really good snapshot, an overview of what's going on then. You mentioned there that you've got 5 interdisciplinary labs. So can you expand on that a little bit? And can you also tell us how these reach that real world challenge or impact that you kind of mentioned there as well?
For sure. So firstly, on the real world impact, Hannah, we weren't going to be able to do this on our own as a university. We work with a lot of universities around the UK and internationally, and indeed with some of our industry, policy, charitable partners. So for example, we were really excited that some of our innovations and research is going to be partnered up with Vitality, who is a new flagship sponsor of the hub, and that is really around doctoral projects aimed at women's health. In terms of the labs, I will give you a snapshot as we have got some really lovely imagery, videos on our web pages, or please do email us if you want more information. But in a nutshell, we've identified 5 areas of expertise that we can offer into this system. One is around health, one is around life course, one is around technologies, one is around environments, and one is around workforce. And what happened back in March is we turned one of our academic spaces, which is referred to as the street, into a carousel of these labs and brought them to life. So from some of the images and from the videos, you'll see that we had some of our pregnancy testing with physical activity suits being used by our guests and visitors. We had some of our Loughborough Lightning memorabilia to demonstrate how we're using some of our technologies and workforce labs to improve pipelines around coaching. And then we also tried to give that snapshot of the more academic outputs, so some of our latest cutting edge research papers or more industry facing reports. So we tried to really use the launch to showcase some of those labs, and moving forward within the labs there will be people and projects working on live research and innovation areas, but also we hope that they'll be used to stimulate more thinking, more ideas of where we need to go, what does the step change look like. And as I said to you, that will involve them working together. And we've got a couple of projects cooking up at the moment, utilising the Summer of Women's Sport to really make sure what we look to in the future is meaningful to us, but also meaningful to the communities and beneficiaries we're actually trying to drive that change into.
And incredible, very comprehensive and covering like a broad aspect of lots of different areas of women in sport. So it sounds like you're leaving almost no stone unturned.
Yes, exactly. It really is about contributing to co-creating that system-wide shift. And we specialise in being grounded in evidence and driven by that collaboration, as any good university should be.
Now, I noticed you mentioned during that launch event that you spoke a little bit there about the Loughborough Lightning franchise. So obviously Loughborough is well known for its sporting prowess and its facilities as well. But can you talk a little bit around that Loughborough Lightning franchise, and what's the latest and what their involvement possibly will be around the hub?
Of course, they are absolutely key to the long-term sustainable success of what we're trying to do within this hub project, Hannah. So for those listeners that aren't aware, Loughborough Lightning is part of our Loughborough Sport family, and that is where we have our high performance and participation routes for women and girls on site. We have a number of different sporting programmes, but in terms of women's sports franchises, we have 5 at the moment. They are around netball, football, rugby union, wheelchair basketball and cycling. We've mentioned rugby already, so we're truly excited about how the Women's Rugby World Cup, hosted in England and a couple of games in Northampton, is going to turbocharge the visibility and platform that our rugby union franchise, which is tied with Northampton Saints, goes into their upcoming season, both from the athlete support, building that fan base, to more sustainable ways of using some of the latest sport tech. So yeah, it really is a co-created hub with our partners and colleagues that work within the Loughborough Lightning franchise system, and also the athletes, coaches and support systems at the heart of it.
Thanks so much for these insights, Verity. It's been fascinating to hear a little bit more about the hub, how the hub works, and that partnership of kind of academics and Loughborough sport and beyond, and how timely it is in the current situation. But clearly there's some element of future proofing that's happening within the Women in Sport Research and Innovation Hub.
Thanks, Hannah. It's been an absolute pleasure to share a snapshot of what we're building, and I encourage any listeners to keep an eye out on more ways to engage this summer and into the autumn, as there'll be things happening on site, but also things in the digital spaces to dial into.
Fabulous. So I hope we have listeners that look into those particular elements and to get more out of those online facilities. So now, after this small conversation with Verity, we're excited to bring you a special guest segment. So just after the official launch, which Verity mentioned earlier, and that's of that Women in Sport Research and Innovation Hub that happened in March 2025, Verity sat down with Carney, a former England international, broadcaster and Loughborough University Ambassador for Sport, Health and Wellbeing, to hear her thoughts on what this initiative means for the future of women and girls sport.
Carney, thank you so much for everything this morning. And for those of you that are listening to the podcast, Karen has kindly been with us for the past 4 or so hours to launch the Loughborough University Women in Sport Research and Innovation Hub in partnership with Vitality. We've had a very busy morning, and I just want to catch some of your thoughts on what we've just put together, what we've just showcased, and also some of your experiences at Loughborough University and with some of the partners in Department for Culture, Media and Sport, and anything you've got going on at the moment, which for you is a very long list of things. So let's start with the hub. With what you've just witnessed and heard and seen, Karen, what excites you the most about the launch of the Women in Sport Research and Innovation Hub here at Loughborough University?
I mean, where do you start? Immediately, I know it's a podcast, but I'm smiling for those who can't see me, because it literally is like a fantastic initiative. It's for female athletes, for women in sport. It's the attention that it deserves. It really does deserve it. And, you know, I can only speak from my experiences as an athlete, where I wish I'd known more about my body. I wish I'd known more about women's health. And I know that would have amplified my sporting career. There's no question about it. So look, it's massively exciting, and to be launching it at Loughborough, which is, you know, really close to my heart. I came here as a 16-year-old, left as a 21-year-old. I came here, and I'll be brutally honest, this skinny little girl really, and left with international caps for my country and went on to play pro in America literally after I left here. So it was already excellent Loughborough, but now adding this specifically for women and women in sport and learning about women's health and fitness, it's an absolute game changer and something I'm really proud of, and it was a privilege to be here today.
I think you've touched on a few things that is really the vision for the hub as well, is respecting and honouring those that have come before at Loughborough University. It has such a rich sporting excellence and opportunity history, but this is really paving that future forward for what you've just described for those aspiring athletes, those aspiring coaches, those aspiring academics. I'm also smiling because it is really exciting. I think you hit the nail on the head. And something that you shared with us before, and for those of you, there's more information on this on our website, but the Research and Innovation Hub is being driven by a real lack of understanding of some of the issues that you touched upon and a gap in research on women in sports. Can you share some of your thoughts on the importance of addressing that gap?
Look, I was asked to chair a review into the future of women's football, and a stat that absolutely astounds me, and I've said it a few times, it's kind of eaten away at me and kept me up at night a lot. And that's a genuine thing, is that only 6% of research is conducted by women and for women in sports and exercise science. So as you mentioned yourself, you're a doctor, you're an innovator, you love your research. We have to fill those gaps. And we need to change that, and this hub can do that. We can now look and investigate specifically into women's health, because there are physiological differences. I go back to my own athletic career. A lot of you want to be the best, but ultimately I was always judged on the 70 kilogram man, and I'm not that. I'm physiologically built extremely different. I have a menstrual cycle, I have different hormones, my body fats will be different. I'm not going to be the 7% body fat that perhaps is recommended for elite athletes, which would have been for men. I need that because I need to have a menstrual cycle, I need to have bone density. For those that are coming back from pregnancy, I was here when there was elite athletes when I was here that had a baby and were returning back to sport. Imagine the knowledge and research that we could have to help those women come back fitter, faster, and even more stronger after doing an incredible thing of bringing a child into the world. So perimenopause, the menopause, there's so many things. And look, this research hub is, it's Loughborough, it is excellence. But what it does is, not everyone wants to be the elite athlete, not everybody wants to be, or not everyone wants to go to the Olympics or might go to the Olympics or play for the Lionesses. But what we're trying to do is make the journey easier for any woman that wants to participate in sport at any level. So it's the right thing to do. And that stat, when I did the review, was really annoying, and we've got to change that. And it's great that we're doing it, and we're doing it here at Loughborough. And I mentioned it earlier on a chat, when you come through the barriers of Loughborough, genuinely you get that much taller, because you're like, yeah, I'm in the company of the best. This is the best facility. I'm with the best athletes. I'm with the best researchers. I've got the best facilities. It is different here, and that's why this is going to be amazing, because this is different. This is groundbreaking.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, and redressing it for the athlete is about redressing it across that entire spectrum of a community that wants to engage in some form of participation and performance. And we at Loughborough have learned a lot about ourselves and who we cater towards in putting this hub together. And we straight away knew about athletes in the Loughborough Lightning netball, the football, the cycling, the wheelchair basketball, the rugby union teams, because there are elite athletes in our professional, semi-professionalised settings. But what's been really powerful about this project is we've then learned about the over 4,000 women and girls that come on our site and do some form of participation in something to do with sport or physical activity or for health and well-being. And I think you taking on the ambassadorial role here at Loughborough has really helped with that, because we have to build on impact, we have to be built on collaboration, and addressing that 6% will take everyone, not just one university, not just one ambassador, not just one day. It's going to take quite a while, and we're just really happy to be supporting the review and everything that comes with trying to shift a 6% figure like that. And you've touched on this already,
we can talk about strategy, we can talk about reviews, we can talk about policy, but bringing you back to your playing career, in particular in football, what difference do you think that some of the research and innovation you've seen today could have made to you at the time?
The menstrual cycle would have been huge for me. I've struggled with that throughout my career. Even, we're talking about the research, but also educating people on why we shouldn't be wearing white shorts. Even the playing career would be changing facilities. We have unbelievable facilities here at Loughborough, so we're really blessed. But from doing the review, not everybody understands the differences for women and for men, and the facilities that need to be different to make you excel at what you want to do. So I think specifically for me, it would definitely be the menstrual cycle. It would also be neurodiversity. And I've only just found out in the last year I have ADHD. And I look back and think, wow, if I'd known more, women mask that. There's a gender bias in that. If I'd have known more about that, I definitely believe it would have helped my career, because it would have gave people an understanding of when I'm in camp, I might struggle with that, or in meetings I might struggle with that, or in certain situations I might struggle with that. I might have a burst of anger at times, which might be like, what? So that for me is something that as in the last year has been really kind of like, that's really made me think. But in sporting as well, maybe S&C. I did a lot of strength and conditioning with because I'm petite, so I needed to be athletically stronger. But I'm not necessarily sure now it was bespoke enough for me as a female and for someone that isn't 70 kilograms. And like I said to you, I came to Loughborough as a 16-year-old. I wasn't even an adult in terms of, my strength. And to try and come out of that, a young girl into an athletic woman, if I'd have had more research and understanding about how to do that, maybe I wouldn't have retired at 31.
So powerful, and I'm so glad that you'll share some of the ways that the research innovation could have influenced or helped shape your lived experience, because we've spoken to a lot of our athletes, coaches, practitioners on site, and the sort of number one thing that they are hesitant is often to talk to a researcher about some of these challenging issues, as some of the topics that you've just shared with us are still in some circles slightly taboo, like you were saying about mentioning neurodiversity or talking to a man about menstruation. Like these things, they just can't happen in 2025.
No, I mean, when I was younger, we used to obviously do swimming as a recovery session. And the anxiety of telling the coach, or anxiety of like, I'm on period at the moment, it's not, I don't really want to go in there, or like, even understanding, right, it frustrates me a little bit now. We used to get weighed a lot. Understanding that, I'm going to be, like now I'm bloated, what phase of my menstrual cycle am I in, and how does that affect me? And as an athlete, that psychological issue of being weighed and not understanding my menstrual cycle and the fluctuations in body fat or water retention or whatever it might be, or we've got to do better. When we focus on everything of 1% gains to be fitter, faster, stronger, yet there's such a lack of research into women and how we can get marginal gains or big gains just from understanding our bodies that little bit better. Is astounding, really. So look, I mean, I could probably talk so much about it, and to be fair, I was really lucky. I was in an elite environment where we were encouraged, we were leading the way, but this is the start of a huge journey. This is why the hub is amazing. It really, really is, because we can change so many people's lives with this. We really can. And like I said, it doesn't matter if you're going to be the elite. This is about my niece, who I want her to be better educated in the menstrual cycle. I want her to be better educated in hormones, in neurodiversity. So there are taboos, but if we don't talk about them, we're not going to break and demystify them. And this is something everyone goes through, and we should be more open about it and be talking about it and educating each other on it. So yeah, I'm as you can tell, I'm ready to go. I'm really passionate about it.
Yeah, I think we're kind of just giving people on listening back to the podcast a snapshot of the energy and electricity that was in the room today. We're both beaming with smiles, but also I can see in our faces a sense of determination, which is hard to come across on a podcast. I also didn't plan this, but you've covered off quite a lot of the topics in our different labs that we presented to everyone today.
And that wasn't planned. That's genuine.
It's almost like we're on the same wavelength here, Karen. And some of the areas that we're really passionate about in terms of the workforce or the life course or the health, that research and innovation does exist, but we are taking accountability here at Loughborough University that we don't properly communicate with the right people in the right organisations. So having down in the launch today a variety of athletes, coaches, but also then on the administrative side, the chief executive officers, the directors of women and girls. We had a couple of the sponsors in the room. It's going to take each and every one person to start to listen and ask questions to some of these research projects, or ask for more communication around them. Otherwise, that 6% will never shift. One of the labs that we've not touched upon, which is, again, very aligned to what you're currently in the midst of, is that sort of environments piece, which captures a lot around the culture and the systems and structures, and especially to do with the media. So now that you're a broadcaster, Karen, do you think that we can do more to work with the media on key messages around the health of the female athlete, or the research innovation outcomes for women across the life course?
Do you mean in terms of even women's health in broadcasting? Because I can tell you about that as well. Or
go ahead.
So I had this one the other day, right? Say, for instance, you're in broadcasting and there's this camera called the jib, and the jib is really moving. I don't know whether you guys are familiar with it. It's kind of, you can't see what I'm doing, but it kind of is a camera that can go like up and down and move around. So obviously as women, sometimes you can't wear dresses because it can maybe be revealing, so you would wear trousers. But when you're on air, you're given 3 mic packs. 3 mic packs sit on the back of your trousers. If you need a toilet, if you need to change a tampon, or and you're in menstrual phase, that's frustrating. And again, then you have to think about your hydration. Hydration is really important, keeps you focused, keeps you on board. So even little things in broadcasting. So the other day, it was brilliant. It was the first time in my whole career someone said, put the mic pack on your ankle. I was like, huh? They're like, put it on your ankle. And if you're wearing trousers, because you won't see it. And I was like, okay. So I could actually go to the toilet with ease and with speed, instead of having to think it takes me 10 minutes every time to go to the toilet. When you're on air, you haven't got time. If you need to quickly go to the toilet if you're on your period, just even things like that. So yeah, that was just a sidebar. But in terms of media, you're right. We can do all the research that we want, and it's what I found in the review. We can find all the information out, but if we don't get it out via the right channels, if we don't communicate it to the wider audience, to the reach, we'll never make big change. So that 6% of research might change, and hopefully it absolutely will here at the Hub, to whatever high percentage that we want it to be. But if we don't get it out there, is it going to have the impact that we want? So yeah, broadcasters, medias, outlets, everyone has a responsibility to share the work that we're doing here.
And that's fantastic, Karen. We have really, really listening to how that percentage is one of the tangible things to shift. But some of the points you've just raised there about, well, once you've got that research, once you're thinking through innovations, how do you translate all of that knowledge, that evidence, that insight into actionable, measurable, tangible impacts for these variety of communities? And I think we've spoken a lot in this conversation about some of the elite athletes, the women and girls in the community, but it is also about those spectators and about what sport organisations are doing to drive fans, including men and boys, to watch some of our flagship sport. Here at Loughborough, we're so proud of our Loughborough Lightning netball franchise, that in the midst of a really successful season, and fingers crossed that we make it back to the Netball Super League final this year, we have step changed within Loughborough Sport and within the league's infrastructure to need to sell out bigger stadiums, to provide better infrastructure and professionalise. What are some of your thoughts here on either engaging with that infrastructure, or indeed with some of those with those men, boys, women and girls to come watch this fantastic spectacle?
If you don't signpost and tell people, show people, or let them know where it is, how to get there, who's playing, who are the stars, who should we look out for, why are they so good? We don't story tell that. We are going to struggle to fill that 6,000-seater stadium at Nottingham Arena, but we won't, because we're going to story tell it. We're going to showcase why they were back-to-back champions already, why we want them to go and win the third title. Even if you're a neutral, you can go there and see incredible female athletes, incredible sport, and have a great time. You might be a Manchester Thunder fan, a Nottingham Forest fan. You might be an NSL fan. So this is a great opportunity, and look, we have to signpost women's sports a lot better.
I think that brings us on to an excellent sort of final couple of questions, and we're really keen to understand, Karen, you've got a lot on at the moment around women's sport, women's research and innovation, your own broadcasting career, like just the richness. But in a nutshell, what are some of your hopes for the future of women's sport in its broadest form? And potentially, how do you see something like the Hub here at Loughborough University contributing towards that vision? I'm not going to put you under too much pressure, because I think if you had the answer to that, you'd probably end up with a professorial job here. But if you could just marry up your personal hopes and what you're currently experiencing with what we could do here at the Hub, what does that future look like?
I think, again, it would just be to keep educating. You know, Loughborough is a university. It's there to educate, inform, with good research, with top facilities, and keep making people better. You know, good people who can change the world. And people might think that's really cheesy, but that's genuine. You know, if you're a good person, you've got a better chance of people following and listening and believing in you. So I think, look, specifically for the Hub, my aim, when I participated in sport, it was always to leave it in a better place. That the little girl, specifically in football, had an easier route than what I did, and people had done that before that for me. Specifically around the health and the Hub, is to just really help any female on their journey to have it easier. That's all I want. Is it easier to have a better understanding of your body? It's your right to know. And we have to inform women and make it easier, because it's hard. It's hard for women in sport, it's hard for women in general. And adding the health stuff as well, it's even more challenging. So if we can just help, then I'll be a lot happier.
Amazing. Final question. The Hub has been built on and aligned with the whole step of the journey of bringing this together with Loughborough Sport. We are so energised and proud to have them on campus, and I don't think they do a good enough job of actually shouting with how much they push in terms of female coaches, female athlete health working groups. But at the centre point of that is our sort of flagship Loughborough Lightning franchises, and the power of actually going and watching women's sport live in action, getting spectators, getting media, getting broadcasters to come and actually see it, because that is the electricity in the room. You've spoken so much about what's been going on the pitch, on the course, on the piste, whatever your sort of sporting in action looks like. What about off the pitch? What do we need to do in terms of shifting the dial around leadership?
I think, again, it does all boil back to sport as well. I'm going to link it back, but the percentage of women at C-suite level now is obviously massively rising, which is fantastic, but they all come from a sporting background. So that's, again, what you learn, and the transferable skills and the knowledge. And look, here we have entrepreneurial. We're big here on being the female entrepreneur space as it is, business, innovation. So look, yes, over here I'm speaking about sport, but think about the transferable skills and what you can take from sport into business, and keep inspiring our female business entrepreneurs or getting it to the C-suite level.
I think someone that's new to Loughborough is I'd never quite realised how illustrious the Loughborough alumni are, and how much they reach into those entrepreneurial spaces in and beyond sport. So we're so grateful as well, just to give a bit of a shout out to our alumni on this podcast, because we'll also be leaning to them in the coming years. But that is fantastic, Karen. I think just reminding us about where those leadership lines come from is excellent. Thanks so much. So my final question is, why do you think it is important for people to go and see women's sport in action?
Because there's been a lot of noise over the last however many years that women's sport isn't good enough.
women athletes are not strong, and there's been so much in the past that women can't. By just going and watching, you know that they can. By going to watch women play sport, you know they are incredible athletes, they're incredible people, and we're home to some of the best champions here and our future champions as well. So just keep breaking down those barriers and demystifying those previous thoughts.
What a fantastic way to end. As a true academic at heart, I'm just going to give you some shout outs and headlines, because this has been one of the most powerful interviews I'll do all year. Is you've really set out a stall, Karen, that you are so excited about the hub launching, which we're very appreciative about. But you've really, throughout this whole process, hammered home to us that we must redress that 6% gap in research innovation. That has to shift. It has to be a step change. The lived experiences you have around menstruation, neurodiversity, just they need to be kept being shared, but more importantly, how it transitions into your future career aspirations, whether it's a broadcaster and where to put a microphone, and keep everyone being educated in all realms, because women can play sport and it is an excellent thing to go and watch, and it's an excellent thing to be part of the research innovation space on. So just a huge thank you, Karen, because in the space of about 20 to 25 minutes, you've covered off some really important and impactful topics that just personifies what we're trying to do at the Women in Sport Research Innovation Hub. And we can't wait to get you along to some of our games, but also keep communicating to you about what we've got going on. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for listening to the Experts in Sport podcast. If you'd like to get in touch, then please contact me, Martin Foster, at m.foster@loughborough.ac.uk. Thanks for listening. See you next time.